The MMA world was hit with surprising news this week as Anthony "Fluffy" Hernandez officially pulled out of his highly anticipated fight against Reinier de Ridder due to injury. The matchup had generated significant buzz among fans, but Hernandez's withdrawal forced the UFC to make swift adjustments in order to keep the event intact. The drama first began when Paulo Costa cryptically hinted at being approached for a big fight. According to Costa, the UFC had called him to step in against a top-5 middleweight in a 5-round contest. Costa, however, countered by requesting the fight be reduced to 3 rounds, citing the short notice. He later took to social media to air his frustration, accusing others of ducking him and claiming his vintage version was back, striking fear into potential opponents. Around the same time, middleweight contender Caio Borralho made his own post, appearing to take a direct shot at Costa. Borralho stated he would happily step in for a 5-round fight against any opponent the UFC offered, emphasizing that unlike some fighters, he would not make excuses about short notice or limited preparation. His comments fueled speculation that both Costa and Borralho were circling the same opportunity. As the rumors circulated, it became clear that the main event involving Reinier de Ridder was in jeopardy. While names like Costa and even Azamat Murzakanov floated around, the UFC eventually confirmed that Brendan Allen would step up to face de Ridder. Allen, who recently snapped a 2-fight skid by defeating Marvin Vettori earlier this summer, now has a golden chance to skyrocket in the middleweight rankings with a high-profile short-notice bout. Ali Abdelaziz, who manages de Ridder, later provided clarity on social media. He explained that de Ridder was initially scheduled to face Hernandez, but Hernandez's injury forced the UFC to seek replacements. Costa was considered, but negotiations fell through. Ultimately, Allen agreed to step in and save the main event, which will now headline UFC's card in Vancouver on October 18. Following the announcement, Anthony Hernandez released a heartfelt statement addressing fans, the UFC, and his opponent. He expressed sincere regret for withdrawing, apologized to de Ridder, and thanked Brendan Allen for taking the fight. Hernandez emphasized that his current priority is healing and recovering from his injury so he can return stronger than ever. He assured fans that when he does come back, he intends to make a statement inside the octagon. This sudden shakeup has turned what was already an intriguing matchup into a fascinating test for Brendan Allen. Facing Reinier de Ridder on short notice is no small task, but Allen's momentum and confidence could make this one of the most compelling middleweight showdowns of the year. For Hernandez, the focus now shifts to recovery, but his fans can expect an even more determined fighter when he returns to action. Before moving on to the next news, we have a quick request for you. We're always working to improve our content and truly value your support. If you could take a moment to leave a like on this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell icon, it would mean a lot to us. That way you'll never miss an update. Move on to another news. The rumor mill in the UFC never stops spinning, and this time it's focused on bantamweight star Sean O'Malley. Over the past few weeks, speculation has grown that Sugar Sean could be lining up a potential fight with rising contender Song Yadong before the end of the year. While nothing has been made official, fans are eager to know if one of the UFC's biggest stars will be stepping back into the octagon soon. During a recent video uploaded to his YouTube channel, O'Malley addressed the swirling rumors. He acknowledged that talk of a fight with Yadong has been gaining traction online, and while he hasn't received any official word from the UFC, he made it clear that he's more than open to the idea. "I've heard the rumors like everybody else," O'Malley said. "Song seems like a great next opponent. It makes sense and I like the matchup. As far as timing goes, I'm good with November, December, January, even February if that's what they want. I'm healthy, I'm feeling good, and I'm training hard. So yeah, I'd definitely be down." Interestingly, O'Malley also noted that Yadong himself had teased the possibility of the fight. The Chinese contender recently posted a photo alongside Merab Dvalishvili on social media, hinting that a fight with O'Malley was already in the works. That post fueled fan speculation and added more fuel to the fire. However, O'Malley made sure to clarify that he has not had any direct discussions with the UFC regarding Yadong or any other opponent just yet. "To be honest, I don't know what the plan is," he admitted. "I haven't talked to the UFC specifically about who, when, or where. I'm just keeping myself ready. Call me next week and I'll probably say it's too short notice, but if they give me the right timeline, I'm in. I like the fight, and I think it's a good one for the division." Despite the excitement surrounding the potential matchup, there's been some confusion. According to a recent post by MMA scientist on Weibo, Song Yadong has denied reports that he is fighting O'Malley in December. That denial leaves the situation up in the air, with fans left to wonder whether the UFC will move forward with the rumored fight or pivot to another contender. What's certain is that O'Malley's return is inevitable, and when it happens, it's guaranteed to draw attention. As one of the most popular and polarizing fighters in the sport, his bouts generate massive fan interest and headlines across the MMA world. Whether it's Song Yadong, Merab Dvalishvili, or another top bantamweight contender, O'Malley is preparing for a big name next. For now, UFC fans will have to wait and see what the promotion decides. But if O'Malley gets his wish, a fight with Song Yadong could be one of the most exciting clashes in the bantamweight division's near future. Move on to another news. The featherweight division continues to heat up as Aljamain Sterling and Lerone Murphy recently went back and forth in a war of words on social media. The exchange came after Murphy's highlight reel knockout, which many believe positioned him as a top contender for the next title shot. Despite the buzz surrounding his win, nothing has been finalized by the UFC yet. Murphy decided to weigh in on the conversation surrounding Aljamain Sterling potentially being in the mix for a crack at the featherweight crown. He openly questioned Sterling's credentials at 145 pounds, writing, "How is Aljo's name even in the mix? I'm confused. He's 2-2 in his last 4 fights. He was a good bantamweight, but an average featherweight. Only one name makes sense right now, and that's Lerone Murphy." When fans pointed out Sterling's recent victories at featherweight, Murphy doubled down, arguing that Sterling's wins came against opponents who were either compromised or on losing streaks. 2 impressive wins, Murphy said, a half-dead Ortega in Qatar, who was on a crazy skid. He was great at bantamweight, I can't deny that, but featherweight is a different story. Murphy also shared his perspective on Diego Lopes, who recently put on an outstanding performance against Sodiq Yusuff. While he acknowledged Lopes' skill, Murphy insisted that nothing major would change in a potential rematch against Alexander Volkanovski. Diego did amazing, but fans want fresh matchups. I'm 17-0 for a reason. It's my time. Naturally, Sterling did not let those comments slide. The former bantamweight champion fired back, pointing to his decorated resume. "You beat a Bellator guy and ran circles around some lower-level competition. I've defended my title 3 times, beaten multiple title challengers, and I have nearly 3 times the UFC wins you do. My name absolutely belongs in the mix." The response triggered more back and forth. Murphy countered by claiming that Sterling would not succeed at featherweight and even suggested that other fighters such as Aaron Pico would beat him. "You won't touch gold at 145, Murphy declared. Sterling, however, clapped back at fans who sided with Murphy. "I've fought nearly 3 times as often as him. This isn't leapfrogging. Murphy's just insecure if he thinks my name doesn't belong. I've never turned down a fight, and I'll fight whoever the UFC and Volkanovski want me to fight." He later added, "Everyone in the top 15 is a dog. They're all dangerous matchups. Whoever gets the shot, fair play. But I'll be ready if the call comes." The drama didn't stop there. Movsar Evloev entered the conversation, suggesting that Murphy might not get the title opportunity after all, and predicting that the two of them could end up fighting each other. "If you do get the title shot, good luck," Evloev wrote, "but I think you and I will cross paths soon." Diego Lopes also chimed in, calling for either a rematch against Evloev or a clash with Murphy. He even took a shot at Sterling, claiming he could easily beat Sterling, Arnold Allen, and Lopes again if given the chance. With Alexander Volkanovski now fully recovered and eager to return, the division is buzzing with possibilities. Whether it's Sterling, Murphy, Evloev, or Lopes, one thing is certain: the featherweight division has no shortage of hungry contenders, and the race to a title shot has never been more competitive. Move on to another news. Terence Crawford has fired back at Ilia Topuria following the UFC featherweight champion's recent comments, and things are starting to heat up between the two. The tension began when Topuria took issue with Crawford using the same walkout song that Topuria has made famous inside the UFC octagon. Crawford, who walked out to the track during his most recent boxing match, insisted that the decision was unintentional. Still, Topuria went public with his frustration, even suggesting that Crawford was stepping on his identity as a fighter. During Monday's episode of the MMA Hour with Ariel Helwani, Crawford directly addressed the controversy, brushing off Topuria's criticism with ease. "I'm not worried about that guy at all," Crawford said. "To be honest, I never even seen him fight. I didn't even know who he was. When he saw me at a UFC event, he came up, shook my hand, and said, 'What's up?' I had no idea who he was until I later saw him online talking about knocking me out." Crawford went on to accuse Topuria of being disingenuous. "If you really wanted to fight me, you had your chance to say that to my face. You could have come up and said, 'Hey man, let's fight.' But instead, you shake my hand, act friendly, and then go online talking tough. That's fake to me. I don't respect that. I'm not the type of guy to sit behind a keyboard talking about who I'd knock out. If I have something to say, I'll say it to your face." The boxing superstar also suggested that Topuria was simply trying to build his own profile by associating his name with one of boxing's pound-for-pound greats. "Look, this is nothing but clout chasing," Crawford said. "He's trying to get attention by using my name, and I don't blame him. But he's not on my radar, and I don't waste time on people who don't really mean what they're saying." Of course, speculation quickly began about whether this beef could lead to a crossover fight between the UFC champion and the boxing kingpin. Crawford, however, pointed out the obvious obstacle. UFC President Dana White has repeatedly shut down any talk of UFC fighters stepping into the boxing ring under the Zuffa boxing banner. "Dana's already made it clear he doesn't want UFC guys crossing over," Crawford said, "so unless something changes, all this talk is just noise." Still, combat sports fans know that stranger things have happened. From Conor McGregor facing Floyd Mayweather to Francis Ngannou's boxing venture against Tyson Fury, crossover fights have proven to be massive spectacles. While Crawford insists he isn't interested, Topuria may continue to press the issue if it keeps his name in the headlines. For now, though, Crawford appears unfazed. Confident in his own legacy and dismissive of Topuria's callouts, the multi-division boxing champion made one thing clear: if Ilia Topuria wants a fight, he needs to stop hiding behind interviews and social media posts and start speaking his mind face-to-face. Move on to another news. Joe Rogan has once again voiced his strong opinion on one of the most debated topics in mixed martial arts, the UFC's weight classes. Known for his outspoken takes on combat sports, Rogan is demanding a major rule change that he believes would make the sport safer, more competitive, and more logical for fighters across the board. During a recent discussion, Rogan explained that he has long advocated for the UFC to introduce more weight classes, specifically adding a new division every 10 pounds. According to him, the current system leaves too much room for imbalance, especially between certain weight divisions where fighters are often forced into difficult weight cuts or mismatched fights. "I think there should be a legitimate weight class every 10 pounds in MMA, Rogan said. "That's not a bad thing. Right now, you've got 205 pounds for light heavyweight, and then it jumps all the way up to heavyweight. From 206 pounds to 265 pounds, that's one weight class. That's insane. There should be something in between, like a 225-pound cruiserweight division, and for heavyweight, I don't think it should be capped at 265. It should be unlimited, like in boxing." Rogan pointed out how boxing has handled this issue much better. The sport of boxing has long recognized the need for multiple divisions, ensuring fighters don't get stuck in weight gaps that could put them at a disadvantage. "Look at boxing," Rogan explained. "They don't have a problem with this. You can have guys who are 240 pounds, 250 pounds, even bigger. No one's telling them they can't compete because of a weight cap. In MMA, you've got fighters like Brock Lesnar or Francis Ngannou who have to cut down to make 265. Imagine them without the weight cut. It changes everything." Rogan's argument isn't just about size, it's also about fairness and fighter safety. The 20-pound jump between middleweight, 185 pounds, and light heavyweight, 205 pounds, is already challenging enough. But the jump from 205 to heavyweight, where fighters could face opponents weighing up to 60 pounds heavier, is simply unreasonable in his view. Think about it. From 206 pounds to 265 pounds, that's considered one division. That's crazy. I used to fight at around 230 or 235, and every guy I fought was cutting down from 265. Realistically, I should have been in a cruiserweight division, but it didn't exist. There's no balance in that setup. For Rogan, the solution is clear. The UFC should create new divisions such as a 195-pound class between middleweight and light heavyweight, a 225-pound cruiserweight division, and then leave heavyweight open-ended without a strict limit. He believes this would not only give fighters more options, but also lead to more competitive matchups and potentially attract more talent in the higher weight categories. The question now is whether the UFC will ever listen. Dana White has historically pushed back against adding more divisions, often citing that the current setup already works and that too many weight classes might dilute the talent pool. But as Rogan points out, the UFC is constantly evolving, and addressing these massive weight gaps could be the next step in the sport's development. So what do you think? Should the UFC implement Rogan's idea and introduce more weight classes, or should the current system remain the same? Move on to another news. Daniel Cormier has never been one to hold back his thoughts, and over the weekend he voiced serious concerns about Kelvin Gastelum after the fighter's latest bout. Gestelum earned a crucial victory at this past Saturday's UFC event, defeating Dustin Stoltzfus via unanimous decision. While the win should have been a moment of triumph for Gestelum, the circumstances leading into the fight cast a long shadow, and Cormier admitted he wasn't entirely comfortable with how things unfolded. The controversy centered on Gastelum's failure to make weight. Scheduled for a middleweight clash, Gestelum not only missed the 186-pound limit, he came in a staggering 5 pounds overweight. In a sport where every pound counts and fighters often put themselves through grueling weight cuts, missing by that margin is seen as a serious offense. What makes matters worse is that this is not an isolated incident. Gestelum has struggled with weight management throughout his career. At one point, the UFC even forced him to abandon welterweight entirely, insisting he compete at middleweight because of his repeated misses. While he has had success in both divisions, the question of his discipline and professionalism continues to follow him. Inside the octagon, Gastelum looked sharp. His boxing was crisp, his footwork effective, and he controlled the action en route to a clear decision victory over Stoltzfus. But for Cormier, that performance was hard to fully celebrate. On his show following the event, the former two-division UFC champion admitted that he and his team debated whether or not Gestelum even deserved to be interviewed afterward. "I've got to be honest with you guys," Cormier said. "Kelvin Gastelum is someone I respect a lot because of what he's accomplished in his career. But missing weight by that much, 5 pounds, I don't know how to judge that performance fairly. It doesn't feel right. Honestly, it was so bad that we thought about not even doing the interview. When you show up that heavy, there should be some negative consequence. You shouldn't just carry on as if nothing happened." Cormier did acknowledge that Gestelum accepted the fight on relatively short notice, stepping in with just 4 weeks to prepare. Still, he argued that 4 weeks is plenty of time for a professional athlete to prepare properly and meet the contracted weight. "That's a month to get ready," Cormier stressed. "I get that it wasn't a full camp, but missing by 5 pounds is a massive miss." The UFC has not yet revealed if Gestelum will face any repercussions from the promotion's leadership, but the situation may have long-term consequences. Gastelum's days of trying to compete at welterweight now appear permanently behind him, with the door likely closed on any return to 170 pounds. Even at middleweight, questions remain about whether he can consistently meet the requirements. For now, Gastelum holds on to his victory, but the asterisk of missing weight leaves his win under scrutiny. Fighters, fans, and analysts, including Cormier, are left to wonder whether this version of Gestelum can be trusted to meet the demands of top-tier competition moving forward.